Welcome back to the Cynthia Clark Book Club. We are still reading The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And I am going to go ahead and read Chapter 2. Chapter 2 of this book is called The Law of Prosperity. In fact, let me tell you the names of the chapters in this book. There are 10 chapters in this book. This is a short book. The first chapter is called The Game, which we read already. I'm reading now Chapter 2, which is The Law of Prosperity. Chapter 3, The Power of the Word. Chapter 4, The Law of Non-Resistance. Chapter 5, The Law of Karma and the Law of Forgiveness. 6, Casting the Burden, Impressing the Subconscious. 7, Chapter 7 is called Love. 8, Intuition or Guidance. 9, Perfect Self-Expression or the Divine Design. And 10 is Denials and Affirmations. I am putting this video in YouTube and posting it on Facebook. If there is something in Chapter 2 that you want to talk to me about, you can just put your comment on Facebook and we can have a conversation. If you need a copy of this book, The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn, I have my website posted, and you can click on my website, and on the home page, if you click on the image of the book, it'll bring up a free PDF file of the book so you can actually read along. So I'm going to go ahead and just start reading Chapter 2, and how it works is I read the chapter, I give my little comments, my little 2 cents, or I may throw a story in of something that relates to me. I post it on Facebook, and again, if you want to talk, then we can have a conversation. Otherwise, I will just, again, do what it is that I enjoy doing. One of the things I really enjoy doing, which is just reading. So let's get right into it. This chapter, again, is called The Law of Prosperity, and it is Chapter 2. One of the greatest, well, let's start here. She has a little scripture here before she gets into the book. But anyway, it says, "Yea, the Almighty shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver." I'm excited about this chapter because I am becoming wealthy. I am attracting money, more money into my life. And so, of course, it only makes sense that I study wealth and that I study money if that is my intention. And so I am excited about reading this particular chapter. And here we go. It says, one of the greatest messages given to the race through the scriptures is that God is man's supply, and that man can release through his spoken word all that belongs to him by divine right. He must, however, have perfect faith in his spoken word. Isaiah said, "My word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that whereunto it is sent." We know now that words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force, ever molding a man's or a woman's body and affairs. A woman came to me in great distress and said she was to be sued on the 15th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting the money and was in despair. Pause. This book was written back in 1925, almost 100 years ago. So some of the stories are dated. However, the lessons are timeless. So we'll keep going. You'll know what I'm talking about when I get to certain points. Let's keep going. Back to the book. I told her God was her supply and that there is a supply for every demand. So I spoke the word. I gave thanks that the woman would receive $3,000 at the right time in the right way. I told her she must have perfect faith and act her perfect faith. The 15th came, but no money had materialized. She called me on the phone and asked what she was to do. I replied, "It is Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your part is to act rich, thereby showing perfect faith that you will receive it by Monday." She asked me to lunch with her to keep up her courage. When I joined her at a restaurant, I said, "This is no time to economize Order an expensive luncheon. Act as if you have already received $3,000. All things whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. You must act as if you had already received. The next morning she called me on the phone and asked me to stay with her during the day. I said no. You are divinely protected and God is never too late. In the evening she phoned again, greatly excited, and said, "My dear, a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning when the doorbell rang. I said to the maid, 'Don't let anyone in.'" Pause. Yes, she has a maid and she still needs money. Just because you have a lot of cash flow that comes in doesn't mean that you can't get into financial difficulty. That's a whole another story, but actually they'll get into it. But anyway, back to this. Don't let anyone in. The maid, however, looked at the window and said, "It's your cousin with the long white beard." So I said, "Call him back. I would like to see him." He was just turning the corner when he heard the maid's voice, and he came back. He talked for about an hour, and just as he was leaving, he said, "Oh, by the way, how are finances?" I told him I needed the money, and he said, "Why, my dear, I will give you $3,000 the first of the month." I didn't like to tell him I was going to be sued. What shall I do? I won't receive it till the first of the month, and I must have it tomorrow. I said, "I'll keep on treating." I said, "Spirit is never too late. I give thanks that she has received the money on the invisible plane and that it manifests on time." The next morning, her cousin called her up and said, "Come to my office this morning and I will give you the money." That afternoon, she had $3,000 to her credit in the bank and wrote checks as rapidly as her excitement would permit. If one asks for success and prepares for failure, he or she will get the situation he has prepared for. I'm going to read that again. If one asks for success and prepares for failure, he or she will get the situation he has prepared for. So for me, I am becoming wealthy. I am attracting more money in my life. So it only makes sense that I prepare for that. Let's look at the example that she brings out here. Back to the book. For example, a man came to me asking me to speak the word that a certain debt would be wiped out. I found he spent his time planning what he would say to the man when he didn't pay his bill, thereby neutralizing my words. He should have seen himself paying the debt. So this guy wanted to pay a bill, but he kept imagining himself not being able to pay the bill and imagining what he would say to the person that he owed the money to when he didn't come up with it, as opposed to imagining himself somehow getting the money and paying it. I mean, if you're going to use your imagination, then why not use it for what you want as opposed to what you don't want? Let's keep going. Back to the book. We have a wonderful illustration of this in the Bible, relating to the three kings who were in the desert without water for their men and horses. They consulted the prophet Elisha, who gave them this astonishing message. "Thus saith the Lord, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet make this valley full of ditches." Man must prepare for the thing he has asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. For example, a man found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year when there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It says a woman found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year when there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility. And her friends were sorry for her and said, "Isn't it too bad? You'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel." She replied, "You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm a Superman and I'll get an apartment." She spoke the words. Infinite Spirit opened the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand and that she was unconditioned, working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. Pause. It says one with God is a majority. So when you are connected to God or infinite spirit source, their energy, whatever you want to call that entity or energy, then you're not alone. You're a majority, not a minority. Back to the book. She had contemplated buying new blankets when the tempter, the adverse thought or reasoning mind, suggested, don't buy the blankets. Perhaps after all, you won't get an apartment and you will have no use for them. She promptly replied to herself, I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets. So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she already had it. She found one in a miraculous way, and it was given to her, although there were over 200 other applicants. The blankets showed active faith. It is needless to say that the ditches dug by the three kings in the desert were filled to overflowing, and the author recommends that we read 2 Kings. Back to the book. Getting into the spiritual swing of things is no easy matter for the average person. The adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge from the subconscious. They are the army of the aliens which must be put to fight. This explains why it is so often darkest before the dawn. A big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. Having made a statement of high spiritual truth, one challenges the old beliefs in the subconscious, and error is exposed to be put out. This is a time when one must make affirmations of truth repeatedly and rejoice and give thanks that he or she has already received. Before ye call, I shall answer. This means that every good and perfect gift is already man's, awaiting his recognition. Man or woman can only receive what he or she sees himself receiving. The children of Israel were told that they could have all the land they could see. This is true of every man. He has only the land within his own mental vision. Every great work, every big accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision. I remember hearing that in the movie The Secret. Hold to the vision. Okay, back to the book. And often just before the big achievement comes apparent failure and discouragement. The children of Israel, when they reached the promised land, were afraid to go in, for they said it was filled with giants who made them feel like grasshoppers. And there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. This is almost every man's experience. However, the one who knows spiritual law is undisturbed by appearance and rejoices while he or she is yet in captivity. That is, he or she holds to their vision and gives thanks that the end is accomplished. He or she has received. Jesus Christ gave a wonderful example of this. He said to his disciples, Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are ripe already to harvest. His clear vision pierced the world of matter, and he saw clearly the fourth dimensional world, things as they really are, perfect and complete and divine mind. So man must ever hold the vision of his journey's end and demand the manifestation of that which he or she has already received. It may be his perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, home, or friends. They are all finished and perfect ideas registered in divine registered in divine mind, man's own superconscious mind, and must come through him, not to him. For example, a man came to me asking for treatments for success. It was imperative that he raise within a certain time $50,000 for his business. The time limit was almost up when he came to me in despair. No one wanted to invest in his enterprise, and the bank had flatly refused a loan. I replied, I suppose you lost your temper while at the bank, therefore your power. You can control any situation if you first control yourself. Go back to the bank and I will treat. My treatment was, you are identified in love with the spirit of everyone connected with the bank. Let the divine idea come out of this situation. He replied, woman, you are talking about an impossibility. Tomorrow is Saturday. The bank closes at 12 and my train won't get me there until 10. And the time limit is up tomorrow. And anyway, they won't do it. It's too late. I replied, God doesn't need any time and is never too late. With him, all things are possible. I added, I don't know anything about business, but I know all about God. He replied, it sounds fine when I sit here listening to you, but when I go out, it's terrible. He lived in a distant city, and I did not hear from him for a week. Then came a letter. It read, you were right. I raised the money and will never again doubt the truth of that you told me. I saw him a few weeks later and I said, what happened? You evidently had plenty of time. After all, he replied, my train was late and I got there just 15 minutes to 12. I walked into the bank quietly and said, I have come for the loan. And they gave it to me without a question. It was the last 15 minutes of the time allotted to him. An infinite spirit was not too late. In this instance, the man could never have demonstrated alone. He needed someone to help him hold to the vision. This is what one man or woman can do for another. Jesus Christ knew the truth of this when he said, if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. One gets too close to his own affairs and becomes doubtful and fearful. The friend or healer sees clearly the success, health, or prosperity and never wavers because he is not close to the situation. It is much easier to demonstrate for someone else than for oneself. So a person should not hesitate to ask for help if he or she feels themselves wavering. A keen observer of life once said, no man can fail if some one person sees him successful. Such is the power of the vision. And many a great man and woman has owed his or her success to a wife, a husband, a sister, a brother, or a friend who believed in them and held without wavering to the perfect pattern. Pause. I try my best not to be discouraging when people tell me their ideas, because you never know whose spirit you're dampening when you do that. When someone's really resolved in what they're going to do, it doesn't matter what you say because they're going to do it anyway. I just don't want to be a wet blanket on someone that may be teeter-tottering. I don't want to stop someone or hinder someone or slow someone's progress by telling them what they can't do. Also, I know that what I send out comes back. So anyway, that is the end of the law of prosperity. If there was anything in this particular chapter that resonated with you, you want to talk about it, leave a comment on Facebook and we can have a conversation. Thank you.